And hello, Facebook universe. I am so excited to be here today, live on the Pivot Shift Ahead page, which we are always so grateful every single week to be on live. Jay Papasan, everyone who, James Shaw, April Murphy, just once again, thank you for your support always and in partnering with us and allowing us to do this. This is our Wednesday webinar. We do these every Wednesday at noon, unless Vija goes out of town, which happens from time to time. And, we're taking some holidays off. Like, we're not going to do it the day before Thanksgiving. We're not going to do it Christmas week or New Year's week. For the most part, you can find us here every single Wednesday at noon. And these are designed for real estate agents by real estate agents, right? So the whole point of these Wednesday webinars is to give you, the real estate agent, tactical advice and tactical things that you can take away and use right away. My goal of every single Wednesday webinar is that you can walk away with 1 to 3 things that you can use within an hour, right? So we've had all sorts of different topics. I was just reviewing our most popular topics, and definitely our 2 most popular topics so far, drum roll please, have been a group of buyer agents walking through how they do their buyer consult, and Sarita Dua talking about how to win in multiple offers. We have so many others besides that. So today I'm super excited to be with Wendy, and we're going to go through how to plan anything you want, anything in the world, on one page using a GPS. We call it a 135 GPS. And then more importantly, Wendy, right, how to take that and put it on our calendar and have a relationship with our calendar about it.
Yep.
So we're gonna focus, probably on real estate a little bit today, because that's kind of who we typically have. But you can use this for anything, right? And so I just want you to keep in mind that you can do that. I've done these for health. I've done them for relationships. I've done them for all sorts of things. I'm sure you have too.
Before we start, can I just say something?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you, because you have been here on this Pivot Shift Ahead page since we started in April, and putting out content week after week after week after week. And I just want to thank you for it, because
thank you.
You've helped a lot of people along the way, and you're just really good at what you do. So I wanted to just thank you and appreciate you.
Wow, thank you. I can't talk. Now I can't talk anymore. So thank you. Thank you. It's always hard to accept compliments, right? So we're working on that. So I'll just say thank you. I always want to say no. It started in COVID. It's one of the blessings of COVID. And how this whole thing started, how our Wednesday, I don't know if I've talked about this, was that I was like, immediately we need to tell our agents what's working today. Especially when we were going in under lockdown. So I just started pulling agents. I was like, you sold 2 houses this week. Come tell the agents how you did it. You got 2 listings this week. Tell the agents how you did it. This was like in the middle of lockdown. And then agents just started coming from all over the country. And I realized there is a dearth of actual tangible, tactical things. Like, what can we literally do this week to work? And that's how they got started, And so there's a lot of really great content out of there on mindset and leadership and all these fuzzier topics that I actually love. I actually love those topics. But this is kind of what was needed and still is continuing to need. Tactical, how do you actually do a buyer consult? What does that look like right now? Like, how do you actually do a virtual open house? What software are you using? Just the really down in the dirt stuff. And that's really how it started. So there's a lot of silver linings with COVID, isn't there? Strangely.
Yes. And Jen asked the questions, are any past webinars archived anywhere? Yes, they're all on
the
Pivot Shift Ahead page. You can go and there's a search feature and you can search for things. You can probably search for Vija and they'll probably all come up.
I think that's what Hattie does. I think my assistant just searches for my name, but correct me if I'm wrong, Hattie. I think April made it. We might even have a section on there. I don't know.
You have a section. Yeah, I think you have a section.
Wednesday webinars or something, but yeah. So they're really great. And most of them you can listen to in your car. Most of them you don't have to actually see. Some of them are good to see, but you can throw them on in your car. So anyway, Wendy is, really truly one of the ninja masters at what we're about to go over. I thought you were going to start voguing, that shows her age.
I could do that. I think.
Little Madonna 80s action. just went off the deep end fast.
Yeah.
The other
Melina's ready to vogue with us.
I
She's
know.
our age.
Melina, you should just
Yeah.
come up and do this with me. I'm in Bellingham
Mhm.
today. One of the things before we dive into it, Wendy, that we do a podcast together, and we literally stare at each other. Like, we spend more time together, like on Zoom, than I think most people do in real life. I mean,
Like
it's
with
pretty
our,
crazy.
yeah. Friday's a good day.
Almost.
Yeah.
There
Our
are some.
empire
So we do
building
that most
podcast,
Fridays.
by the way, in case people don't know, empire building podcast.
Look at Hattie, just like clockwork.
Oh, Hattie,
Link
there
goes
you
in.
go.
She's
Boom
so on the
chakalaka.
spot. So good.
Yeah.
So we do that together. And also Wendy runs an incredibly successful team out of Austin with expansion locations. You're involved in, I don't know how many different entities, Wendy, and one of your superpowers is, I think, empowering and teaching people how to build net worth. How can people find you the best? Do you have like a website, or do you have a mailing list? How can they best reach you?
The best place to find me is probably Instagram. So go to Instagram, send me a message. That'll be the best way.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm
there anyway.
Hattie's going to put both of our Instagrams on both of them. So we want all of you guys to follow us both.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, I'm going to share the slide deck. Just a note to our Facebook Live viewers, Hattie monitors that. If you have any questions, she just hops right on and gives us our questions on the Zoom chat. If you're on Zoom, you can ask us questions. If you're watching this in replay, no problem. I try to come back from time to time. I'm sure Wendy can pop on and we'll try to answer your questions. Just tag us or something and we'll try to get back to you. But
I love this little person here. I'm not sure.
You like the person?
What's going on with that person, but
that person is winning the pandemic, Wendy Papasan. They are winning the pandemic, and that's what it looks like.
They've been announced, winner of the pandemic. Got it. Okay.
100%. They are winning, and you like this graphic. So leave it to you to pick that out of the title slide. Really, Wendy and I spent hours and hours together. I think maybe we should preface it by that. And our sense of humor gets
Jerry
a little
wants to know what
all right.
Yes, and Jerry wants to know what a GPS is. So let's teach people.
Let's go into it, Jerry. We're going to go into it. Jerry's one of our awesome agents from Olympia. So Wendy, a lot of these slides are from Quantum Leap, right? And so you're going to kind of walk us through, and I'll just pepper in. I did add a couple of my own slides. I snuck in a couple of my own, but these are all pretty much yours. So go for it, girl.
Okay, great. Okay, so just so you know, guys, we're going to be talking today about how to get whatever you want in the world, to create a plan for it, to create an action plan for it, and to make it happen. And this can be around your business. This can be around your personal life. This can be a hobby of yours. I've used the GPS, which stands for 1 goal, 3 priorities, and 5 strategies, right? To Jerry's question. And GPS also stands for, how to get to where you want to go. So I personally think that the GPS plus the 411 is the thing. Like, I tell that to the agents on my team. Hey, if you guys don't get anything out of working on my team besides this, learning how to use the 411 effectively and having a relationship with your goals is everything. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be going over this toolbox, which, like Vija said, is found in Quantum Leap, which, for those of you that don't know, that's a class that Gary's been teaching since he started Keller Williams. And it's not a real estate class. It's a class on how to live your best life. So these are the 5 tools. The first one is to develop a plan using your GPS. Again, GPS stands for 1 goal, 3 priorities, and 5 strategies. And don't get locked into the 1, 3, 5, right? It's always going to be 1G. It's going to have a few priorities, probably 2 to 5 priorities, and then strategies under each one. And then once we've got that down, we're going to have a relationship with that plan. Because what happens a lot of times is people create a GPS, people create a plan. It's beautiful. They laminate it, and then they stick it in a folder and they don't look at it all year. And so that is a recipe for disaster. You need to look at your plan. Probably, I would argue, every single day. I look at my 411 every day in order to know if I'm on target or if I'm not on target. And we'll talk about exactly what the 411 is in a second. And then you want to prioritize your actions on a daily basis using the focusing question, which is what do I need? What am I going to, what's the focusing question?
What is the one thing such that by doing
you.
everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? My pleasure.
Nobody tell Jay. Nobody tell Jay. And then you want a time block. So you want to have a relationship with your goals, but then you also want to take that and use your calendar in order to make those goals happen. And then you want accountability around it. So that's really the 5-part plan for achieving anything you want in your life.
Yeah, and Wendy, yesterday we did a business planning session for our brokerages, our 8 Keller Williams that we have here in Washington, and then invited guests. And I referred a lot of them to come here today. And so for all of you who were there yesterday, all of the stuff you learned yesterday, this is a good order of things. Now that you have your numbers down and you have the stuff that we worked on yesterday, now you can look at these 5 tools, and Wendy and I are just going to drill down only on the 135 and the 411. So that's why we didn't, deep dive too much into it yesterday.
Yeah. Right. And I just go back for just a second, because I think that little graphic on there is so important.
Yeah, I'll go back. Bear with me.
It's okay. It's a magnifying glass, and it says you can't start a fire if you don't focus, right? If you think about a magnifying glass, right, and the sun's coming through, if you keep moving the magnifying glass around, you're never going to start a fire. It's really that focus over time that creates that spark.
Yeah, sorry, I lost it there.
That's okay. No worries.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is great. I actually think that it's great to have all 5 of these things, in a row, because we throw away all these terms like GPS, 411, blah, blah, blah. This is it. It's very, very simple. It's just not always easy.
Yep. Okay. Yep. It's what Vija would call a framework.
I would.
For success. Yes.
I would.
Yes.
All right. So this is the famous 135 GPS.
Yes. Yep. And if you just look at the top, I'll just go through the 3 parts. You've got your goal at the top, and you want it to be a specific goal. You want it to be measurable, and you want it to be time specific from one area of your life, right? So you're kind of choosing one area to focus on. Maybe you want to, maybe you want to get married, right? Maybe that's your goal. You might say to yourself, hey, I want to get married by December 2021. Mm-hmm. So that's your goal. And so it's specific in that there's a very specific action that's going to happen. And then there's an endpoint there too. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's pretty measurable, goal, right? Because it's measurable because either you're married or you're not, right? There's no ambiguity there.
Yeah. Well,
and then,
that's a different webinar.
Hopefully not. All right. So then you've got your priorities, right? So they are the most important things you need to focus on in order to achieve your goal. And again, it's not a million priorities. It's 3 priorities, probably at most, sometimes 4, sometimes 2, right? There's usually a couple things that need to happen, and those need to be specific as well. So priority 1 might be to go on, if we're expanding on our goal of getting married, it might be to go on 100 dates in the next 6 months, right? That might be your priority 1. Priority 2 might be to, clean up your appearance or something like that. And then underneath that, you've got your strategies. So the activities or action steps you need to accomplish. Priority
plastic
1.
surgery, whatever it takes.
Exactly. A stitch fix, right?
Yeah, that's right.
A wardrobe consultant, get your teeth fixed, whatever all that is. So yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then yes, it does make sense. And I can tell it makes sense because we're not, the chat's not going, gangbuster crazy. Can I drill down a little bit? Because I learned something new last year on the GPS that I hadn't done before that was really helpful. And so I'm going to take this down to a real estate planning level. And that is that Ben Kinney taught me something that I like. And it stems from something I'd actually read a couple of years ago. I don't know if you read this, Wendy, but Jeff Bezos at Amazon, He has asked all of his direct reports to no longer send any emails or memos with bullet points. Everything has to be written in narrative form. There's a lot of research that's showing that, we like to read things in narrative form, not bullets. So this concept of writing this out, and Wendy said it earlier, in a complete sentence is paramount. If you're a real estate agent and you're writing this for yourself, here's what I recommend. I recommend putting 4 things in here, not just one. This is very important. I will sell, and then we want to put number 1, units, X amount of units, and then we want to put number 2, price, average price. If you're new and you're watching this, you can work with someone to help you estimate what that might be, equaling number 3, volume, whatever the volume is you want to sell. And then number 4, GCI, very specific, hit all 4 metrics so that you aren't just focused on one of the 4. And writing it out as a complete sentence and a very thoughtful sentence like that, I think really helps, because if you're reading this every day, your brain's looking at the 4 things. It's looking at units, price, volume, and GCI. So that's been really helpful for me.
And it's kind of an affirmation and a goal all in one.
Yeah, really good point. That you're absolutely right. It really is. Yeah. The second thing that I just wanted to touch on is, and yeah, we can send these templates out. It's easy. We'll just send you, because you're all here, it means you register. We'll just send it to the attendee list. But this is a sample GPS that we use a lot in our brokerages for agents. And I would encourage you to copy this. 70% of this is going to work for most people. And that is that and by the way, the goal stated on here doesn't follow my rule of the 4 things. We discovered that yesterday on our webinar. So write it out with those 4 things on it. Priority 1, buyers. Priority 2, sellers. Priority 3, your growth plan. This is a great format that I recommend if you haven't done this before and you're doing this for your real estate. I love this format. And the strategies are really a reverse engineering. So it's where are my 25 buyer sites going to come from? And then you start listing the sources, right? If you want to go deeper, which I do when something's really important to me, I do a 1, 3, 5, 5 sometimes, or I don't always do 5 sub, but you could say sphere, and then you could go sub. And you could say, PTA, soccer mom friends are going to be this many deals. Book group are going to be this many, people. You could get really specific if you wanted. And then the same thing with seller. The growth plan is, what do you need to learn? What classes do you need to take? What books do you need to read? Who do you need to hire potentially? Anything that you need to, what tech do you need potentially, right? What leverage do you need in place? Anything that you might need, I think is a good thing to go on priority 3. Any other comments on that, Wendy, before we?
I really like this. I would just add that, if this were Gary Keller and he was looking at your GPS, he would say, is your priority 1 your true priority? So if nothing else happens here, is it okay to have number 1? And I would argue, for me and anyone I would coach, I would say you'd want to have those listings first because of leads, listings, and leverage.
Yeah,
so
I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
listings are more important. And then if you wanted a 4th one, and if you're growing your team, you're at the point where you're growing your team, I always suggest systems, right? Because if you're not on a team and you're growing a team, typically you have systems that you need to work on. So you might have you might need to work on your system for sending out your email to your sphere every single month, right? So just that little focus on systems can help when you're growing your team.
Well, no, I like that a lot. I mean, and then there's an alternative way to do that, which is when I go sub, I do that. So like if we were saying priority 1, I'll close 25 buyer side transactions, and then strategy 1 sphere, you could go sub 5 or however many below that and say, okay, email campaign to sphere number 1, blah, 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 blah. And then 4 could be, then you could look at all that. And on 4, you can say, okay, I need systems or people or tech, for each one of those. And by the way, Wendy, you're right. This is a framework, my favorite word. And so this could be a 1, 4, 6. It could be a 1, 4. The basis of this, I think many more than 3 you should think about. I mean, 3 should be
I think so
the goal.
too. And I think having more than 5 strategies, I would argue that for most people, actually most teams who have a really big business, they probably just have 3 lead sources.
Yeah.
So,
right.
and I would say for new agents, if you're a brand new agent, just have one strategy that you crush. That would actually be my advice. So have a 1-3-1 even.
Yeah.
Or you might have some systems underneath some of those priorities, like your system around contacting your sphere. Because I think actually focusing on all 5 of those lead sources is, for most people, that's a recipe for disaster,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It can be a little schizophrenic that way, right? So,
Yeah.
I totally get that. All right. Well, yeah. So this is a framework. Like we said, though, you can kind of tweak the numbers a little bit. I really do recommend putting a lot of thought into the goal. You'll find the priorities and the strategies, I think, come easier when the time is spent up front, really, really thinking through that goal, getting as specific as possible. What does SMART goal stand for again? Is it specific, measurable,
actionable, something timeline?
Some smart person is going to put it in chat. What reasonable?
Oh, reasonable.
Cooper, thank
Kayla.
you.
Yeah.
Reasonable. Yeah. And then time, is it T time? Yeah, time bound. There you go. So SMART goal, you can
You know what? Somebody's asking if you can maximize the screen. I guess it's difficult to read that text.
Can't really do that. So we'll send this out, guys. Don't worry about it. You'll all get it if you're registered for here, and you can spend some time on it. And plus,
Lucy,
you can always
for the win.
Get the replay. Of course, Lucy Parker was faster than lightning on that. That's brilliant. All right. So that is the GPS. Wendy, you've got some tips here, which we probably verbally went over.
Yep. It's just your one thing for the year in a particular area of your life. So again, you don't want to put all those things on your GPS, and you can have multiple GPSs. I have multiple GPSs.
I have multiple.
Yeah, I have for my team. I have a GPS for Amplify, which is an organization that Vija and I are involved in. I have a GPS for my home services business, probably a couple other things. And then again, 3 to 4 areas of priority, the most important things, right? If you need more than 4, your goal is probably too big. And then again, it's kind of like you said, more than 6 strategies means your priority is too broad. And then fewer than 3 means your priority might be too narrow and may in fact be a strategy. So there you go.
Yeah, I can't stress the specificness of the goal enough. I think that's a really good emphasis on this. And for everybody here, the more specific you can be, A, the more your brain likes it, and B, the more likely you are to hit it, right? Really quick on goal, this just reminds me, I think that sometimes I see with goals, like I can tell if an agent I'm coaching has gone to a seminar and I'm like, oh, okay, so you sold 12 homes last year and now your goal is 156 for this year. And I'm like, did you go to a seminar? And they're like, yeah, I went to the seminar and he said, times it by 4, like Grant Cardone, like 10x it. And I'm like, okay, which is great. And there, there's a fine line between, they do need to be reasonable. I am not saying don't push yourself. That is not what I'm saying. I'm also saying that, pie in the sky out of left field going from 12 to 156 would be unrealistic and maybe not even the most healthy business growth, right? So I want you to push yourselves. I think it's really important that you push yourselves. And it's also time to kind of think about, by working this out, and you're reverse engineering it, you're like, okay, the reality of 156 is actually pretty freaky. Because you have to reverse engineer it and say, where are they all going to come from? So anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think success looks different than most people think it does. So if you're a new agent, most new agents tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they greatly underestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year. So my first year in real estate, my goal in 5 years, what did I say?
1 year. 1 year, yeah. 1 year. So they overestimate 1 year, underestimate 5.
Underestimate 5. And I know for me, when I started my real estate business, my goal for my first year, it was really small. It was only 15,000. So I guess I was the opposite. I underestimated it. And I closed 18 transactions my first year. And by the time I hit the 5-year mark, I was making $1 million in commission checks. Yeah. And I know that's because success, and actually my first year and my second year looked pretty much exactly the same. So what happens is a lot of people get discouraged in real estate and they quit before the 2-year mark. And that's really right when what I've seen is at that 2-year mark, everything kind of starts rocking and rolling. All the things that you've put into place, all the relationships you've built, all the hard work starts to pay off. And most people, 90% of people quit. So
yeah, that's right.
If you're at that point, just know that keep going.
Yeah, that's right. Couldn't agree more. Okay, here we go. So that was the 135, Wendy. And again, that's how to plan anything. What's the 411?
Yeah. So the 411 is how you have a relationship with that GPS. Like I said, a lot of times people create that shiny plan. It stays in their computer, or maybe they print it out and they tuck it away somewhere. The 411 is a living, breathing document that's basically changing every single week. And you're looking at it hopefully every day. And it's just a way for you to chunk down the things that are most important to you. Mm-hmm. So you want to start out with your annual goals, right? Put your annual goal up at the top. And some of these formats of the 411 have both the personal and the professional on them. And I prefer those because I need to be motivated by something. And the personal stuff is what motivates me to do the professional stuff. So put your annual goals up there. That's the 1 year. Put your monthly goals, right? So that's just for the 1 month. So if this was my 411 for this month, it would actually say November goals. Mm-hmm. And then I've got my weekly goals under that. And so that's where the 4 comes, right? And the 411 is also information, right? That's where that comes from. And this is something that I look at every single day.
Yeah, this is a huge tool. Wendy and I both use this tool. I actually do 4 columns. It depends, but most people that I see do 3 columns. So they do, their job, so to speak, their business, financial, and personal. It can be whatever you want. But I'm with Wendy. I need to have okay. So for those of you that are involved in multiple entities, I often have a column for an entity. So I will hide them sometimes. I use this on a Google sheet. I'll hide them sometimes, but I sort of like to look at that, or I'll group one and I'll say business entities and then my day job, like my role that I'm doing every day. It just depends what you are. But I like to see, Wendy, my financial and my personal on there too. I like that.
I mean, I actually have a copy of my goals from last year. If you wanted to let me share the screen, I can
absolutely.
I can show it. I can peek behind the curtain here.
Co-host, can you share it?
Yep, I got it.
Cool.
Great. All right, so this is just a copy of my 411. And this is for those of you that are new, just understand this is pretty complicated, but it might give you a better idea of what a 411 could do. So I've got my 3 columns here. I've got my business, I've got my personal, and then I've got some habits over here. So in my business, I'm at the point now where my number 1 job is always talented people. And then I've got my specific goal. I've got my systems, and then I've got the lead gen that we're focusing on that year, right? Got quite a bit. And then I've got some personal stuff in the middle. I've got some fun stuff. I got my family stuff. I've got my finances. I was doing a big project on my house last year, and then some charitable stuff. And then you go down here and you got your monthly goals, right? And I really want to think of this as my 20% non-negotiable, right? And these are the things I need to accomplish that month. That's my personal stuff.
Are you scrolling down?
Can you see it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, shoot. Let me try it. Let me stop and then start it again.
Sarah, we can send you. So I have a template that we'll share with you guys. We can see it now.
Yeah. So can you see it now? Yeah. So then you got your monthly. I got my priorities, and then you got your weekly, which is personal, and then I just track some numbers down here. So again, this is just pretty complicated, but remember, I run multiple businesses. I got a pretty big life, all that stuff, and my 411 started just like the one that was on our screen before. So
yeah, the one I use, I don't have a scrubbed one. I should have prepared it. I don't have a scrubbed one that I can share with you guys, but the one I use, so if you can picture it, it has 12 tabs. It's a Google sheet and it has 12 tabs. And I've got a formula so that when I type in the annual on January, it just copies over to all of the other years. and then I do the monthly, and then I have the years in my 4 columns. And so I just slide the most recent tab is the most recent month, and then I just kick it to the end. So at the end of the year, it's a 12 tab Google sheet, if that makes sense to anybody. And I don't know about you, the Sunday before the first of the following month is my planning day for the month, and the Sundays are also my planning day for the week. I don't do it daily. Like I admire you. I just want to tell you the truth. I don't look at it daily, but I think it's great to look at it daily. All right. Yeah. So people are asking for links. We will send you links for all of you who are on business planning yesterday. We promised a lot of links. It's going to take us a day or two to gather everything together. Anything we promise you yesterday and today, we will send you. It'll probably be Friday. So just heads up on this, but I'm happy to send my Google, my link for this. Also, Hattie was going to put a link. I did a YouTube. I walked through the link I'm going to send you on YouTube 4 or 5 years ago, and it's my #1 most viewed YouTube video, which is because it doesn't have my face on it. It's just my voice and the screen. That's the reason it's so high viewed. But that really gets technical, and so Hattie will send that link out. So there's a bunch of stuff coming. I know you're all asking.
Yeah. All right. And if you go to and I'll just say, if you visit the one thing, the number1thing.com, there's lots of resources there. So.
Is it Hattie, is it and then the numeral 1 thing?
Yeah, I just did it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, perfect. There you go. Free resources. This is great. Anything that you see on here, Wendy, that, as you're coaching your people, is there anything you see kind of common mistakes or common, I don't know if mistake's the word, but is there anything that you see on here that you coach anyone on right now?
Yeah, I think that the #1 mistake I see is making it a to-do list.
Ditto.
Right. So if I'm looking at someone's 411, it's a bunch of little things that they have to do, and it's really a priority list. And it might be that, depending on how in the weeds you are every day, you might only have one priority for the week. The priority might be, get married, right?
Yeah.
Or it might be, get a listing.
For sure. Yeah. I agree. That's the #1 thing I see. The definition of priority is before anything else. The priorities are not a task list, right? Yeah. I always tweak the focusing question. I love the focusing question on the one thing. And the Vija tweak on that spin that I use almost daily is, if I screw up on everything else in this one category, but I succeed at one thing, and by succeeding at that one thing, I've won the day, what would that one thing be? And that's how I usually come up with it. Like when I lost a bunch of weight one year, I was struggling with the goal. I could do percentage of body fat. I could do exercise. I could do health. But at the end of the day, I could eat Twinkies all day. And if I lost 70 pounds, then I'm going to feel successful in my health this year. And so I did weight, and that's actually not true. That's probably a bad example, but I did weight because it was the one thing that I could screw up on a lot of things. But if I lost 70 pounds, I won. I felt like I won that year. So that helps me kind of clarify it in my head. All right. Well, let's move on, Wendy. Oh, weird. The focusing question.
Ta-da. Yeah. Okay, this is from a great book. It's called The One Thing, written by Gary Keller and his co-author, Jay Papasan. I love this metaphor of the domino. And for those of you that don't know, actually, after Jay wrote this book, he got 2 dominoes tattooed, one on each arm, because his one thing is to be the best husband and father that he can be. And so that reminds him that those are his first dominoes, which I love.
I love that.
Which I always feel guilty about, really, if I'm honest, because that's really sweet. And I'm not sure those are my first dominoes. So.
Oh, I thought you felt guilty because you don't have tattoos. All right.
No. So think about the domino metaphor. You guys have all seen those YouTube videos where you can, where somebody's lined up literally thousands and thousands of dominoes. And how much effort does it take to knock all those dominoes over?
Very little.
Yeah, because what do they do to start it?
They just flick the first domino.
It's a flick. right?
Mhm.
So I want you guys to think about when you're lining up your dominoes, right? When you're lining up your priorities, you want to start with the smallest domino so that you can just flick it over and all the rest of the dominoes will fall into place. And so really what that means is beginning with the end in mind. Okay. So the end is going to be your 5-year goals. And for some of you that are newer to goal setting, 5 years might be daunting, right? So maybe think about, where do I want to be in 3 years, right? But let's since this talks about 5 years, let's start with 5 years. So if I thought about my real estate career when I started, and if I had said to myself, in 5 years, I want to make $1 million in commission checks, right? That's my 5-year goal, which is pretty daunting, right? It's pretty daunting until you start working backwards. And you ask yourself, based on my 5-year goal, what's the one thing that I can do this year? So if my goal is to make $1 million in commission checks, and I know my focus needs to be listings, what's the one thing that I can do this year? It's like, okay, well, my first year in real estate, the one thing that I need to do is I need to get really good at listings. I need to get really good at taking listings. Okay, based on that goal, what's the one thing I can do this month? Well, let's see. I don't know how to take a listing, so I better get my listing presentation together. That's my monthly goal. Based on that monthly goal, what's the one thing that I can do this week? Well, I can go to KW Connect and I can download a template for how to have a listing presentation. And then based on my weekly goal, what's the one thing that I can do today, which is, talk to someone about how the best way to do a listing or something like that. You guys get the drift, which is to really start with that big goal in mind and then work your way backwards and chunk everything down. Because for so many of us, those big goals can be really overwhelming. They can just be super, super, super overwhelming. So the goal is to and if 5 years seems too overwhelming, start with 3. Where do I need to be in 3 years? And then if that's my goal, then where do I need to be in 1 year? Where do I need to be in 1 month, 1 week? And what can I do today to move forward towards that?
Well, and the cool thing about how you describe that is that some of the graphics I've seen, they start with a small domino and every other domino gets slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Slightly bigger, just enough so that the one domino knocks over the next.
That might be the next slide, actually.
Oh, sorry.
It could be.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, just kidding.
That's okay though.
I lied. Yeah.
I don't know how to go back on, oh, what did I do? See, every time I try to go back, I lose it. That's okay. I'll get it back. But yeah, the slide, so I'm getting it back right now as we speak. But the concept is that, to Wendy's point, that you start with a small domino and then all the dominoes get bigger. But, you don't have to go to the big, huge one right now. You just start with that first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think those of you that are familiar with the book know that statistically, a 1-inch domino can knock over a 1.5-inch domino. So just statistically, if you had a 1-inch domino, if you put a 1.5-inch domino behind it, that would work. And the graphic is really, by the time you get to, gosh, I don't even know, the 8th domino, you're already at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. By the time you're at the 12th domino, you're at the Eiffel Tower. By the time you get to the 57th domino, you're at the moon, which just shows you with incremental growth, right? You could do huge things.
Yeah, it's really powerful, I think. And I love what you said earlier. I was just soaking all of that in. I love what you said earlier about, you reverse engineer it. You're like, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years? And then what would year 1 have to look like? And I was reflecting on when you said, well, I need to be good at, getting listings. Couple things. Number one, if you don't have a coach or a mentor or a teacher of some level who could help you understand that, because a lot of you are new and you're like, well, how did Wendy arrive at that? If you don't have that, then find someone that can help counsel you and make you understand what you don't know. You may not know what you don't know. The other thing that kind of strikes me about it is that, if I was like, well, yeah, I need to get good at listings. You could say, if I get 25 listings my first, year in real estate, I've probably gotten good at listings. So that's that specific and measurable part of the SMART goals, where you can say, all right, by getting 25 listings, I've probably figured it out, kind of like my weight example. where, I mean, because like getting good at listings isn't probably not specific enough. So it's like, okay, well, I need to get 24 listings my first year in real estate. Trust me, if you can get 24 listings your first year in real estate, you figured it out. That would be an incredible rookie year. So
yeah. And then I just wanted to speak to Alicia's question. Do you have a domino for each area of your life, like work, family, and health? And my answer is actually yes. So if you want to geek out on this goal setting to the now, this focusing question, you can go to, so if you go on page 114 of the one thing, I don't know if you can see this, but it's the 7 circles page. You see that?
Yep.
Yeah. And so it talks about the 7 areas of your life. And I've actually gone out and I've done the exercise where I've asked the question, where do I want to be in my spiritual life in 5 years? And then I've worked all the way backwards where I have a 5-year goal, a 1-year goal, and then I get more granular. Where do I want to be in 5 years for my physical life? Where do I want to be in 5 years for my personal life? Where do I want to be in 5 years for my key relationships, for my job, for my business, for my finances? And some of those might be a little bit more important than others, but yeah, the answer is yes, is you can do that. And do that for all areas of your life. And that might be there might be some people who are like, whoa, that's way too much. And yeah, if you're feeling that way, then don't do that. But there might be certain areas of your life where you're like, wow, I'm really lacking right now. And I need to create a plan for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Wendy, do you think that you can focus on all 7 successfully in a year or in a given period of time?
No, I don't think so.
I don't either.
I gotta do one thing at a time. Yeah, it's too much.
I think you can kind of have 3 general areas of focus, but it's really one is probably going to be your primary. Yeah. I find that 3 is kind of about it before the brain. Truly.
Yeah. Maybe one personal, one professional,
Yeah, we have a ton of great questions here, and we also have some on Q&A. And so Hannah and anonymous attendee and Ozzy and Nick, we'll come back to your questions for sure, because I just want to make sure that we cover time blocking, and then we'll come right back to you guys on that. So let's talk about time blocking, Wendy.
Well, so time blocking, I think I always ask the question, when I teach this in front of audience, like, who struggles with time blocking? Literally
100% everybody here does, I can tell you, because it's the number one request
everybody's hand goes up. And that is because we work in an industry where urgent things and important things are constantly competing with each other. If you're in real estate, there are lots and lots and lots of things that feel very, very, very urgent, and some of them that actually are. And taking care of those urgent things is actually makes us feel better. Typically, I like dopamine. Mm-hmm. So if I knock a little thing off my checklist, I feel pretty good about it. If I'm thinking about, oh gosh, I need to make my, 20 calls this morning, that's not nearly as much fun, and I don't get as much like reward for it. Mm-hmm. But what we're talking about today is the most important things, right? Your priorities, your top 20% of things that you need to do. We're not talking about the checklist. And so when we think about time blocking, we want to put the things in our calendar that are on the GPS, that are on your 411, that are the most important things. That's why you don't want to have a list of to-do items on your 411, because if you're time blocking that, all of a sudden you look up and your whole day is time blocked, and that's not fun. Mm-hmm. Because I know I got into real estate because I like to move around a lot. I like to, variety is the spice of life, which used to be my motto. And I like having open-ended schedule. I like doing what I want. That's why I got into business for myself. And so, and yet, if you can focus on your 411 and accomplish your priorities, that discipline is actually freedom.
That's right. And it's not, it's really priority blocking. I mean, time management is a myth. It's really not time management, because otherwise, like Wendy said, I know people who have their calendars just packed solid. The time blocking is sort of anti that. It's sort of taking your priorities and putting them in, and then letting the rest fall as it may, potentially, right?
Yep.
So speaking of priorities, I see vacation on this little sample.
Yes. So the first thing you want to time block is your personal time. Every single year, Jay and I, we do a goal setting retreat. And the most fun part of the retreat is figuring out where we want to go on vacation. So we take that, we go to our calendar, and we put down all of our vacations for the year. And then if you were to look at my calendar, you'd see, a lot of appointments and things in the afternoon. But then I've got a time block in the morning where I have 30 minutes to huddle with my team, 30 minutes of scripts, and then 90 minutes of lead gen. Yep. So for me, that 2 hours in the morning that's my priority.
Yep.
Right. I'm the rainmaker. It's my job to lead generate for my team. And if I don't do it, then I'm not setting an example for everyone else on my team. So that's a priority for me.
Same with
everything
me.
else,
Same
everything else is that's time blocked on there is either appointments or it's personal stuff that might be on an ongoing basis, haircuts and things like that.
So everybody here knows that sample. Most of us, or many of us, have seen the Franklin Covey sample where you have a jar, right? And you have the jar, and then you have water, sand, pebbles, and like big rocks, right? And everyone's seen it where they pour the water in, and then they pour the sand in, and now the water's already going over the edges. You can't even put the pebbles or the big rocks in. But if you put them, same amount of material, if you put the big rocks in first, then you pour the gravel, then you pour the sand, and last you pour the water, it all fits in the same jar. And it's about the order of things, where you put your big rocks first, right? Those are your priorities. And so what Wendy's saying is, vacations, lead generation time, she's taking the one thing in each of her circles, really, and she's putting them in first, and then the rest is what it is, right? What are some tips, Wendy? Because it's easier said than done. Simple, not easy.
Oh, yeah. Simple, not easy. Well, the tips are, one, goal planning, time blocking. Everything we're talking about today is a muscle that you can strengthen over time. And what I mean by that is if you got a wimpy, flabby arm right now and you work at it a little bit every single day, in a couple of years, you're going to have a nice big bicep. What's not going to work is to do a blitz where one day you just do 100 reps and then you don't do anything for the next 50 days, right? So Every single day, think about prioritizing and spending time thinking about your priorities, because what happens normally for a lot of us is we wake up every day. We pick up this thing, we get in our email, we look at our text messages, and all of a sudden our priorities for the day have been determined by other people.
That's right.
So we no longer get to choose what the most important things are. We are merely responding to other people's priorities, other people's text messages, other people's emails, and that's fine. If you want to go through life responding to other people's priorities, you can do that. There's lots and lots of realtors, maybe even some that are listening, who've been doing that for years.
I agree.
That's fine, right? But if you want to create your life by design, it starts with choosing your priorities, focusing on them every day. Does it mean you're going to do your priority every day? No, it really doesn't. And I'll show you guys something I got here. So this is a system I started 12 years ago. Okay, it's my little tiny dish system. I don't know, can you see that, Vija? Yeah. Okay. I have two of these. I've been doing this for years. Okay. This is my lead gen. These are my jewels, right? Every time I make a contact, I put it over there. That's it. At the end of the day.
So great.
Did I do my job or didn't I do my job?
Oh, that's so great. It's so much better than little tick marks on a piece of paper.
Job halfway done. Yeah. Someday I'll be so rich, it'll be real diamonds.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I did know that, but I wasn't putting two and two together with time blocking. I can't stress everything you just said enough. It is so important that you do that. So we had someone ask a really good question, Wendy, that it kind of hit me when you were explaining that. And they said, how are you managing all the virtual meetings, classes to balance time blocking? I know what my answer would be, but what would you say about that?
Um, well, I think, it's kind of like what we talked about yesterday. We both kind of scaled back quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
as far as
A lot.
that goes. Yeah, it's really, if you've got time for it, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, then you got to focus on your priorities. And I keep that time block in the morning open for my priorities, and I don't put anything. I mean, right now I am, because I have a new assistant, so that time block's kind of disappeared. But that's just temporary.
Yeah. I agree. I think that when you're clear on your priorities and once you've time blocked everything else, if there's a meeting or a webinar or something that happens during a time block, you have a couple of choices. One of them is you can watch the replay. You can do it. You can be the proactive. You can set your own life by design up, or you can react to their time. If for whatever reason you think you need it, as long as you're aware and you're shuffling some things around, go for it. But the important thing is that I think that you assess your priorities every single day. um, a lot of people like to do that the night before, and I see the wisdom in that. I really struggle with that. I'm kind of a morning of person. I really do struggle. I'm not a night before person, so we'll see if I change that or not. Whatever it is, as long as you're clear
I've
about
done
your
both,
priorities.
honestly. I've
Tell
done
me
both.
about the morning versus the morning. Tell me about the night before versus morning. What do you like better?
Um, well, the night before, especially when I was doing a lot. So I'm not doing much real estate these days, so I don't have as much monkey mind, is what I would call it. And I think doing stuff the night before helps you sleep.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's important.
But now, yeah, yeah, and I don't have as much monkey mind. And now often my days are planned even before I get up, because I have meetings and things like that. But now I
Yeah.
typically do the morning kind of things. And honestly, it depends. I would say also my kids are older now. So when my kids were younger, I had a lot of mom duties in the morning. So it was just better to get up. And that way, if I didn't, some kid stuff might derail my day. And that way I already have it in my
Yeah.
head. So,
Yeah. I get that. We get derailed. Wendy, is there such thing as having a goal that's too big?
well, I don't know. I think I'm in the minority here. I tend to set a big goal. Um, because I think, the advice that I always got from Jay was create a 8-lane highway, even when your business is just a dirt path for things. And what I mean by that is a lot of times I'll talk to my operations people, and I'll say things like, okay, well, that's great. If we're doing 10 listings a month, what does it look like if we were doing 35 listings a month or 100 listings a month? Would we still do it this way?
Yeah.
So there's advantages, I think, in thinking big like that, but it depends on your personality. Some people get really overwhelmed by that. So I personally don't. That's just me, but I know people on my team, can be overwhelmed. And then some people get really defeated when they don't hit the goal. I'm so
Yeah.
optimistic. I'm like, oh, well, tomorrow's another day. So
Yeah, I agree. My answer is no. There's not a goal that's too big. Yes, there's timing that's too tight. So if you want to, bring in $10 million in commission income, I don't think that's too big. I hope you're giving yourself, 10 years for that. So I think that it's probably timing that's too tight, not goals that are too big. That would be my answer. And we have this conversation a lot. I have it on my real estate team, and I have it on my brokerage teams. Are you more motivated when you set high goals or when you set realistic goals? And my contention is you have to set pretty high goals, because human nature is such that as you start approaching your goals, most of us tend to coast. So if I say I'm going to sell 2 homes a month and I've sold 2 homes a month, I will coast. I am a human. I will coast. If I set it at 4, I'll push myself and I may not hit 4, but to Wendy's point, I just move on, right? So I might sell 3 because I set it at 4, but if I set it at 2, I'll hit 2. So I do think you need to push yourself. I would actually challenge you to push yourself a little more if you think you have to set realistic goals, that are so realistic that you have to hit them. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But.
yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think you also have to know yourself. And I think it's something, again, that goal planning and goal setting, you just get better over time. I know a couple years ago, I really did a lot of planning and thinking and it was like we were so spot on with our goal. And it was like really the first time in 10 years where I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I did it. I
You
actually
did it.
had a goal and we hit it and we were like, yay. So
Yeah.
it's just part of it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's another day.
Just skimming through. I think there's one more question. Yeah, one more question, and that is paper or online planner, and if so, which do you have any suggestions or recommendations?
Well, I just started using the Panda planner.
That's what I have.
Also, a lot of people like the One Thing planner. It personally was not robust enough for me. So I like the Panda planner because it has priorities and put your schedule in there and things you're grateful for. And it's so far, I'm pretty new to it. I'm just a couple months in, but it's really working for me. So I like that. Plus, you guys saw I had my 411 and everything. I had my 411 online. So I do a spreadsheet for that. I know Jay prints his 411 out and carries it with him at all times.
Oh, wow. Okay. I kind of like that. I like having it physically with you. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's him.
The other one I would recommend for everybody is, or not, but what I use, I shouldn't say that because everyone's brain's a little different, but I love the 5 second. What is it? What do I have? I use it every single morning and I just had a brain fart. It's called, it's in my morning grouping, 5-minute journal. I had to think about that. Every single morning I use it. I don't even think anymore. That's why I couldn't remember it. So it's the 5-minute journal and you go through 3 gratefuls, 3 priorities for the day. And then there's a place to reflect at the end of the day, which I never do. But I'm having a lot of people telling me, so I think I'm going to start challenging myself to do it the night before. Well, you guys, there's so many resources we talked about. So I promise you, we will get you links to everything, including the One Thing. Really, if there's a ton of resources on the onething.com, and we'll also send that out here. If you have any questions and you're watching this on replay, we'll kind of pop back from time to time, and you'll probably be able to get a lot of these resources online. None of them are really that hard to get, right? But I do think it's helpful to have a couple of us who use these tools every day kind of talk about tips and tricks and what we do and how we use it in our life. So I cannot thank you enough, Wendy, for spending a full hour with us in your super busy schedule. So thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Great to see you always.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thank you and have a great week. And we will see you next Wednesday.